Yes, everyone, I'm Nini FC, this is byline TV, and now that we know that Lampard has been officially announced today, I was thinking, why not bring on Alex Goldberg so we can talk all things Chelsea, all things Frank Lampard, give our thoughts and impressions on his first interview, and obviously just, express our thoughts and opinions on how we feel about Lampard's appointment. Without wasting any more time, introducing Alex Goldberg. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Nini. How are you?
Stressed out, as I always am. But other than that, I'm quite good. And, obviously I want to say congrats. Obviously you're not on the market anymore now, a married man. And yeah, man, really happy for you. Happy for your family and everything. You're doing really well. The podcast is doing bits. So, hey, we praise God. We praise God.
Amen. I appreciate that. Big time.
Yeah, man. But just to let some of the viewers know, if you guys don't know by now, Alex Goldberg has one of the best Chelsea podcasts out there. Honestly, I think, in my opinion, it is the best one. And I know that you've got a lot of special guests lined up, and maybe you could let the viewers know who's the next special guest that you have lined up for the next episode.
Yeah, so the one I'm going to shortly release actually after I'm off this video is the one I just did with Academy Player of the Year Conor Gallagher, who really made quite waves this past season. He was obviously getting a lot of awards in his development career. He got Scholar of the Year, and then like I said, he also got Academy Player of the Year this past season, but it ended all very well for him, being of course in that first team for the exhibition in New England. So we talked about that. And then, of course, actually making the bench for the Europa League final. So he really ended his career in the development squad, if you will, on a high. Probably now going to do something different. But hey, you might have to just tune into the episode to figure out what he said on his future. And I mean, it was also kind of cool interviewing a young English midfielder, because that sounds awfully familiar to someone else that is in the news today. And we certainly also talked about Frank Lampard. So if you want to hear what Conor Gallagher had to say on a lot of things, I had him for just about an hour, Didi, and he was really...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when you have players on, you don't know if they're actually going to be a good interview. It's just cool to have them on, but it's kind of a crapshoot if they're actually going to be good. And I'll be honest, I'm not just saying it because it's my podcast. He was a really good interview. So I definitely urge people to check that out.
No, that's sick. I mean, I've always felt like football players today really know the power of social media, the internet. So it makes sense that they try to put themselves in a very good light. But anyway, moving on to the big news that came out this morning. After so long, like literally 2 weeks now, Lampard was finally announced. And hey, Alex, I want to ask you, did you feel as if this was quite anticlimactic, or when the announcement came this morning, was the excitement levels like the same?
It was still the same. Let's be real. I mean, we were making all the jokes for a while, like 48 hours FC. On. And like, I'll be honest, weeks ago, and Nini, I think you're in the same boat. Like literally weeks ago, I was certain Frank Lampard was going to be the manager. I remember doing a podcast with Simon Phillips, who people might know.
Yeah.
And it was before the Europa League final. It was the night after Gianluca Di Marzio had come out with a report that Sarri was going to be leaving after the final no matter what, and that Frank Lampard was being chosen as the next manager. That was literally like a month ago, maybe even more at this point. It was more, because the Europa League final was a little more than a month ago now.
Yeah.
And I remember saying on that podcast with Simon Phillips that night that I thought it was 80% that Frank Lampard was going to be Chelsea manager. And as each day went on, I became close to 100%. So many of us have known for a while it was going to be Frank Lampard. But still, Nini, I mean, this is one of the greatest all-time players, of course, in Chelsea history. You can argue he's the greatest if you want to argue it.
Yeah.
Either way, this was so inevitable that at some point he'd be the manager. But just seeing him actually finally be tweeted out by the Chelsea account that he is the new manager, hearing him speak a little bit so far in that first interview on the Chelsea app, seeing the pictures, even seeing the pictures going around last night of him at the bridge, him arriving at the bridge. I mean, it's it's not anticlimactic. Maybe you thought it would be because
Yeah.
you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. But once it happens, you kind of just forget about just the agony in waiting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Alex. You know how to hype someone up, real talk. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking maybe the media team might have been cooking up something a bit better with the announcement video. But I guess us and the announcements video is just, it's never gonna go together. You know, after that Rudiger video they released, we lost all faith in the club when it comes to that. But you know, moving on to Lampard's interview, his first interview, you guys, the press conference will be released later today, so find that online yourselves. It is going to be on the Fifth Stand app. But Lampard made a very big statement in his interview, and he said, "I will always have my eyes out on the academy." Now that's a massive statement to make, because obviously when you're a manager, the first interview is important, because not only are you communicating to the fans, but you're communicating to the players, the staff, and everyone behind the scenes at the club to let them know, you know, what you're about and what your plan is. And I think for him to come out confidently saying, listen, I'm always going to have my eyes on the academy. We know that Matt Law released an article a few days ago talking about how Frank Lampard is going to be setting up the training schedules to be in tandem with when the the academy teams are playing, which is perfect, which is exactly what you want to hear. And it's kind of crazy to think that we've had previous managers who didn't give two damns about the academy or the youth players, especially when we're known to be the best in Europe, which it is baffling that that's been the case. It's baffling that we've been signing managers like this, and for me it just makes even more sense why Frank Lampard was appointed. But Alex, how are you feeling about Lampard's statements that he made? I mean, do you agree? Do you think that we should be focusing towards the academy right now? Or do you feel like some other fans feel that, you know what, Lampard isn't ready and this is a massive risk?
I mean, yeah, getting to that video specifically that was released on the app, he obviously was asked about the youth in the academy, and he spoke highly of it. And as you said, he mentioned that he's going to keep a good eye on the academy and make sure there's connection there. And then even I thought was more telling when the last question was posed to him about anything you want to say to the fans on what they can expect and everything. He once again mentioned young players, and he didn't need to mention them there because there was already questions about young players previously. So the fact that kind of in his final question, his statement to the fans, he mentioned young players again, I thought that was very telling, because we can speculate leading up to him being appointed, oh, he's going to use youth. He obviously used some youth at Derby County. Yeah. Which is a different situation, but he's with Jody Morris, who obviously was the academy manager. So we can speculate that he's going to use it. But then maybe when he's appointed and he gives his press conference, he does everything on the straight and narrow, and he wants to really appease everybody and almost not be disingenuous, but just act like other senior managers. But he was totally genuine, and he totally was who I think many of us thought he would be. Now, it's only day one, but he really gave us fans of Chelsea youth a great feeling that, no, this is not just all talk. He really is going to care.
He means it. Yeah, he definitely means it.
Integration. And I mean, the biggest thing, and I think the reason why many of us do feel like this is the right appointment, is the situation the club's in, the fact that there is a transfer ban, and the fact that whether we like it or not, I mean, you're going to have to rely a little bit more on young players. Now,
exactly.
No one's really saying that he's going to go take 16, 17, and 18-year-olds out and put them into the first team. But he's definitely going to look at some loanees or some young players already at the club, like Hudson-Odoi. He's going to look at those players as ready contributors. And at least, maybe if injuries happen, he'll have development squad players training with the first team.
Yeah.
So maybe in a pinch, maybe in an emergency, they could at least fill a bench spot. So I love it. I love it.
Exactly. Well said. And, you know, I'm going to bring it back to Marina's statements when the signing was made official. And she said something which should give a lot of fans a lot of confidence. And she said that, listen, we're going to help support Frank Lampard. And that's great because it tells me that they understand what's happening right now. They understand that it might be a bit difficult, working with younger, more inexperienced players, working without being able to sign any players that you want as well. The club had to be realistic with their expectations for this season. And, to say that we're going to fully support Frank Lampard, for me, it tells everyone that they are going to support his methods. Lampard can feel confident to go about, coaching the team how he wants to, and the club are going to be behind him to help support him as well. So, this is great news, and I loved, honestly, I'm really excited by this, and it still feels a bit surreal because for years now, I've always been hoping and praying for a scenario like this. If you guys know, with me and Joe Tweedy, we've had so many live streams discussing youth and talking about the future and how we want to see things develop, and it's finally happening. And it does feel a bit weird. It really does. But, what I'm really happy with when it comes to Frank, he's not patronizing. He's not talking nonsense. He's not talking out his ass. Even though I really like Sarri, Sarri definitely did have some criticisms and critiques, for sure. I think one thing with Sarri was when he first came, he really gassed it to everyone, talking about, he knows all the young players. He was calling them by their name, using them by position, but really, he spent no time at all actually watching these guys play, and really, he wasn't the right guy for us. And it's been a consistent thing with this club, hiring managers that kind of care about themselves, have like careerist mentalities. But now, after how many years, we finally signed someone today that not only shares the club's best interests, but also shares the best interests of the fans and the players as well. So I think this Frank Lampard appointment is fantastic. And Alex, man, I know that you've got a lot of thoughts and opinions on this. It is going to be exciting to hear your podcast later on as well. Are you going to be talking about the appointment with Conor Gallagher?
Sure, absolutely. We spoke on it, and he had some cool stuff to say on Lampard, and being once again a young English midfielder, that's somebody that he obviously has an affinity for. So being a player that is definitely looking to see what's next for himself, I think he's got a very interesting perspective on Frank Lampard coming in as manager, and of course also Jody Morris and Joe Edwards. So it was really an appropriate player to talk to about Frank Lampard being appointed new manager.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you learn a lot of insight behind the scenes, so I'm definitely going to be grilling you about that. But of course, going back to Lampard and the appointment, I do want to ask you something. And what would you say to fans that are doubting us relying on our academy, us relying on our young players, the loan army? What would you say to fans that think that this isn't the right direction? Do you think they have a point, or do you think things have become just way too cynical with this fan base?
Oh, way too cynical, first of all. I mean, just way too cynical. I just think it's so funny that for years and years and years, almost everybody cried out, even when Chelsea were winning things, and obviously they still are winning things, but cried out for Chelsea to use their youth more. It was just everybody wanted them to use their youth more, right? Now, all of a sudden, we have maybe our most impressive crop of youngsters so far, with Hudson-Odoi, of course, leading the charge, but then Reece James and others. And now, all of a sudden, because everybody was doing it for so long, you're having these contrarians now, and people can say their genuine views, maybe some truly that the Chelsea youth is just overrated. But now, all of a sudden, it's like cool to go against the youth, and it's cool to go against the hype.
Yeah.
So now, all of a sudden, some people are afraid that if you're pro-youth, you want a whole starting 11 full of youth players. When have any of us said that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, Alex Goldberg, right? He's the most annoying person about Chelsea youth, probably, period. Even more than the actual Chelsea youth accounts.
Yeah.
And I'm annoying about Chelsea youth, Mason Mount, Hudson-Odoi. I get it. But when the heck have I ever said I want a starting 11 or even anywhere close to a starting team of just youth players? No, I want integration, folks.
Exactly.
I want actual connection.
Opportunities. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
If Mason Mount and Hudson-Odoi and Reece James are making waves, can we at least see them start to be contributors to the team? Because guess what? If they can do it, then you're actually gaining a lot. And if they can't, fine, you're not completely forging your future on it. So I think people are getting way too cynical about it. It's about time there is integration. If you don't believe in it, that's fine. Guess what? You don't really have a choice.
Exactly.
Jody Morris is coming in. By the way, the club also probably knows that those guys plan to actually play some of these loanees that we always talk about. So it's about damn time. If it doesn't work out, Nini, I expect to hear all of the people coming at me, coming at others, saying, oh, your whole experiment didn't work. It's not my experiment. Take it up with John Terry, who said earlier this year on Instagram, Chelsea have the best academy in the world, and they can solve a lot of their problems if they just use the academy. So
exactly.
It really is not just this random idea that we just came up with. Let's actually see what these academy boys can do for us. And I really think it'd be beneficial on so many fronts. Didn't you enjoy way back when having a core of English players that actually knew what it meant to be a true blue? I did. So let's see what happens.
Hey, well said, man. Well said.